Thank you.
All right, so Chris, this has been bugging me all morning. What's wrong?
Keith, I was in a meeting earlier or actually yesterday, and I walked out of that meeting and thinking about it this morning. Marketing and sales, they were just arguing back and forth. Marketing was blaming sales. Sales was blaming marketing. A lot of finger pointing. It was just really frustrating for that first day.
What about the leadership team? What were they doing?
Kind of watching for a while, then going out making phone calls.
Okay.
Weren't really that vested in it. I mean, it was tough.
So pretending like it wasn't happening?
Pretty much. How about you?
Interestingly enough, I had 2 days with the company, 20 different people, and we actually had the sales team, the marketing team. It was actually the receptionist was actually in the room because she wanted to make sure she understood. And we spent 2 days building a playbook to make certain that one message going out was actually setting the other team up for success. The other team really liked it, actually shared details, so they figured out whether or not it worked, so what they could do more of or what they could do less of. And the entire time the leadership team was encouraging them to talk.
Wow, that's a 180.
So the question here, which one of those is more common?
Unfortunately.
So think about that a second, right? Two different scenarios, right? You look at the first one, and it's like there's finger pointing, and the other one, there was more of an acceptance of breaking down those silos. So what do you see out there? Matter of fact, some of this might be good to get down.
You're good.
What do you see out there? How common is that first scenario? What do you think?
Majority.
Majority of the time? Okay, and why do you think that is?
People aren't engaged as a team, they're just focused on their own role. So you probably hear, that's not my job a lot.
Okay, that's not my job. Okay, so overall, that's not my job. What else overall?
There's misconceptions on each side. No, the other is doing, supposed to be doing.
Okay, misconceptions, absolutely. What else?
Lack of leadership.
Okay, lack of leadership involvement. So now let's take it a few steps deeper. Let's think about marketing just for a second, right? A marketing side of it. And this could be a 20-person company with marketing and sales. It could be a 5-person. It could be a 1-person company. We're talking through both sides of our brain. So what do you think marketing might be saying in a scenario where there's a marketing team and a sales team? What are some of the things that marketing might be saying about sales that perhaps isn't too pleasant?
Don't ever freaking listen.
They don't ever freaking listen. Well said. Well said. I think, I'm not sure I was listening, but that was well said. That was great. What else? What is marketing saying?
That campaign is not in our budget.
That campaign, what they want to do is not in our budget. What else is marketing saying about sales? Anything else?
What do you do all day?
What the heck do you do all day besides just go out and network and have lunch? Yeah, what do you do all day? All right, now let's flip it. What is a sales team saying about the marketing team?
What do you do all day while I'm out?
What do you do all day while I'm out doing my thing? What's going on? What else? What do they need more of?
Not generating enough leads for us.
Not generating enough leads. Marketing needs to get us more leads. Where are these leads? What else they throwing over the wall?
They don't understand. They don't understand what they're selling.
They don't understand. They don't understand the customer like we do. What is their major malfunction? Anything else?
You don't advertise.
They don't, marketing, they're not doing any advertising. I'm doing all the advertising, I'm not doing anything. Let's take it a step further. What might leadership be saying?
Why do I have to deal with all this drama?
Why do I have to deal with all this drama? Why are they doing this? Why am I dealing with this? What else?
Why is there such a disconnect between sales and marketing?
Why? Why is there such a disconnect between sales and marketing? I don't get it. Scratching my head for years. Why are they so disconnected?
Well,
leadership is probably saying, why aren't we hitting our numbers? You know, I mean, that's probably what they're saying, this isn't working.
Right. We're not hitting our numbers. Why isn't this working?
And to follow on to that is, we're investing a lot of money and we're not seeing a return on our investment.
Absolutely. Why can't they, where's the ROI and why can't they figure this out? Anything else the leadership team can say? So that's marketing, right? We got marketing, we got sales, we got leadership. Keith, who else has any opinion or say in this?
What are those people that buy our stuff? Customers.
Customers. What about the customers, Keith?
So what do you think they care about? They don't care about marketing, whining about this, sales whining about this. It's like brother and sister can't get along. Parents are telling them to shut up and do what they were told. But what are the customers, what are the only three things that the customers typically care about? They don't care about our problems, they care about what? Okay, they care about product,
There are issues,
which are?
whatever it may be, if it's an IT world or, you know, as far as reliability and stability with the environment.
All right.
Service.
Price, we're gonna stay with P's.
Value.
All right, and I'm gonna put value in here. I'm intentionally gonna take price off, because that's what salespeople worry about, that's not what the prospects worry about all the time. So they care about, hey, look, I've got my products or service I need, I've got some kind of thing I need you to fix. I care about quality service, are you gonna be there because my current knucklehead's not there? And at some point I need to know I'm getting a fair price or a fair reasonable price for what it is. So imagine for a moment if they all stopped bickering and started focusing their time and energy and all that smart stuff up here and the money into fixing this. Think that might help them solve the problem a little bit? Okay if I give you a little glimpse into some of the ways that we'll work with teams to create a little bit of what we call like a playbook at some point to help. Hey, look, maybe if we all can start, and anybody went through with Jen and Andre earlier, talking about having your brand and your design strategy, your style strategy. You need to make sure with LinkedIn, you have your LinkedIn strategy. Well, when it comes to this dynamic, of course, there needs to be a strategy. So let's imagine for a moment, I can either get a volunteer or we can make this a generic thing here. What do you think is the number one frustration that most clients, maybe one of your clients, might be facing, and they're like, look, I don't care what's happening behind the scenes, if you can fix this, we can talk. What do you think that number one frustration might be? Could be specifically to one of your prospects, could be just, customers or clients in general. What is one of the number one frustrations that I'm facing?
In our business, it's gonna be the Amazon effect, so people procrastinated it and planned far enough in advance, but they still need something and they need it right away.
Okay, so they're frustrated that they need it now. Now, any number of different reasons why they saw a webinar and now they need it now, or it could be competitors, could be procrastinations, but there's some kind of emergency. They're frustrated because they don't know, okay? The other thing I'll tell is, think about what is their number one concern. Number one concern that customer, that client, that they might have, but guess what? You can fix. Concern in their world.
Resolve the pain point, whatever that may be for that client or customer.
Okay, how about we put down ongoing pain? So building on these two, is it fair to say, Brian, right? So is it fair to say that if they have this frustration and you can't fix it, it keeps happening, now it's gonna become a concern because now we're getting inundated with, or we're getting overwhelmed by, etc. Which goes back to the next one is, what is their number one thing that overwhelms them? So what is in this world here where there's so many different vendors, so many different clients, so many different ideas, websites, you can find a YouTube site for anything. They're frustrated that they need this fixed now. Their concern is it's gonna keep happening and maybe even get worse cost of business. What do you think is overwhelming them that's keeping them from actually doing anything about it?
Afraid they're gonna be sold.
Okay, definitely they're afraid of those salespeople. What else could be? A couple of different options here.
Fear of letting it go.
Okay,
A poor competency, they feel like, they can do it instead of focusing on.
control, sales. What about that four-letter word that everybody uses? Not the busy word. What's the other four-letter word that everyone doesn't have enough of?
Time.
You know, and I like to also even throw in, and this would be something to help out too, options. There's so many different options out there how to fix it. I don't know which one to trust. I don't have the time. Can I relinquish my control? If I let Greg in here, he's gonna try to sell me something. Like, these are all these fears that are going through somebody's mind. So if sales and marketing would just work together to be able to put together a message going out that says, hey, oftentimes when we talk to, share with me that they're frustrated that these are the things that are going on, concerned that this might happen, and a little overwhelmed about, do you think that person, customer or client, prospective customer or client, do you think that they might now start to resonate with a conversation, might share a little bit more information? Greg, are you more or less likely to feel, what's that word you said, sold to or threatened or like, oh my gosh, who let this person in? So if they can work on the common messages. Now, who's the persons or the people in the organization that are most likely to know what this information is? Which one of the three we talked about? Sales, marketing, or leadership? Who's most likely to know what these things are with their customers or clients? The salespeople. But sometimes they're afraid to relinquish control for themselves. So when you have that organization, like I talked to before, which by the way, that was the first 2 days of training after about 9 hours of talking to say this is what we're going to do. But when you have organizations that said, if sales can give me the information and marketing can do what they do from a branding and from a design and to hit the right markets and social media and all that kind of stuff, now you've got a team just like you would say a football team where the wide receivers, the running backs, the quarterbacks, and that offensive line protecting them all are all doing the same thing. They might just score a touchdown. So just a little sneak peek into what we do, it seems like all day, every day. You want to take it to that next level?
Absolutely, Keith. So when you think about that from the customer perspective, what we're going to do is we're going to take you through 5 different strategies to be able to better, more effectively break down some of these silos that exist between sales and marketing. And these 5 strategies are ones that when you execute them over time are designed to obviously break down and open up more effective communication. And those 5 strategies start with number 1, have clear, published, established goals between marketing and sales. So let's break that down a little bit. The company has a goal. The company has a goal to increase revenue, whatever percent, increase market share, penetrate to a certain market, sell this additional product, whatever it is. There's a lot of overreaching goals. But when it gets down to marketing, and when it gets down to sales, a lot of times what the biggest breakdown is, marketing has their KPIs, their key performance indicators, what they're focusing on over here. And sales has their KPIs over here. Now just imagine for a moment that the sales team has mutual mystification or psychological expectations that marketing's number 1 priority is to generate leads. Just imagine that. If they're thinking marketing's number 1 priority is generate leads, and marketing's number 1 priority at that time is not to generate leads, but it's something else, what happens? What's that?
Everybody's mad.
Everybody's mad. Why are they? But it's not their number 1 priority. And imagine if it's vice versa. That one thinks the other. It could be a branding campaign. It could be an overreaching marketing campaign that the sales team doesn't understand because they're in silos. But that's where we see some of the biggest disconnects, especially in the beginning when working with a client, no matter what size they are. And it's to break down some of these communication barriers. So at a very high level, if marketing has 3 KPIs, key performance indicators they're focusing on, and sales has their key performance indicators, they have to share them and keep track of them. And it makes a huge difference. And the other 4 strategies will directly tie in to this first one. The issue is, a lot of times this first one is highly overlooked because of silence. Any questions on that? All right, we'll take a deeper dive into the other strategies that really support this first one. Clear and published goals. The second one, both shall meet on a regular basis. Both shall meet on a regular basis. And not just a all-company meeting, but this is a marketing department, however big that department is, department of 1, department of 20, department of whatever it is, will meet with the sales team. Now, if they met on a weekly basis, if there's weekly cadence around that, to be able to talk about what's going on, imagine if the sales team had different events coming up that they're going to from a networking perspective. I've heard many times from sales teams, I can only give out so many water bottles, koozies, and all these different things.
You can never.
You can never get that.
Well, but the thing is, that's what they're saying. They're great stuff. Keep them coming. But the problem is, that's what they think marketing is doing for them. Here's more things to hand out. Here's a portfolio to hand out with their logo on it. Here's this, here's that. Go hand it out. So the image for them is that's how they're being supported. And they may not know about all these other things that are going on because there's not consistent communication on a weekly basis. So if they meet weekly, even if it's for 30 minutes or an hour, what's going on? What are you seeing out there? Or, hey, I'm going to these events. How can you help support me at these events? Or I'm calling on this particular territory. What do you have in the arsenal that'll help me support me in my efforts? And it's really joining forces along both sides. So that's, yes?
And not because you happen to mention promotional products, but I go to events where my customers purchase something from me and it doesn't make any sense, the item that they bought for the venue. And it's because, sometimes it's because marketing and sales aren't talking to one another. So marketing ordered something like, well, this is what we have. And nobody wants to carry around a water bottle for 2 hours at a particular event. They didn't have a bag when you walked in. So guess what? The attendees didn't take the water bottle. And why do you guys order water bottles? It doesn't make any sense, but that helps.
It's a great point. And you mentioned that to piggyback on that, think of trade shows, like big trade shows. I've been to a lot of them, sure many of us have. I've been to some that are just very expansive and some that are smaller. And sometimes there's just this constant, okay, let's throw something in your bag when you walk by, feel good, and there's just no consistency around trade shows. And by the way, trade show selling is much different than regular selling. And there's a big disconnect with that as well. Huge disconnect with that as well. Glad you brought that up. The next strategy, as Keith alluded to earlier, the marketing messaging should be pain-based. Should be pain-based. And that is sometimes when you look at a company and if the marketing is continually, and I think Colleen mentioned earlier in LinkedIn that it's your marketing even just on LinkedIn or your post on LinkedIn, only 20% should be about promotions. So if marketing is continually putting things out in a fashion that's all feature and benefit based, look how wonderful we are, look what we do, look at our fancy features and benefits. That doesn't really explain why someone buys your products or services. So I'll put this out to the group. Who can just tell me why someone buys what you do? Anybody?
That's value to them.
It adds value to them. Okay? In what way?
Well, whether it's a product or a service, if it's a product, if it's something that's helping out an aspect of their life, so with a service, it adds some kind of value, making their life easier or better.
So let's take that a second and let's build on that. Yes.
Pain,
Okay.
eliminating or minimizing pain.
In what? So they need to be doing less of what, or frustrated with less of what? Like, give me an example.
When the IT environment, performance can be an issue, so that pain when I click on download this graphic or whatever it may be, it's taking forever to do it, and then I keep getting these little pop-ups about malware or things like that, that impacts productivity, it gets frustrated for the end users. So dealing with that pain and resolving that pain or minimizing.
And to your point, if that were to continue, it's going to cost me perhaps quite a bit in the long run. Time, effort, energy, money.
A lot of the clients I personally deal with are in the construction industry. So they'll call us in ahead of time to prevent pain in the future by saying, when we dealt with this county or these people last time, they nailed us over here because they said when we brought our construction equipment and we tore up the road. So a lot of our stuff is pre-construction and during and after when they restore everything. So they hire us up front to go through the whole process with them to avoid anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I can tell you, there's a fine line. And I've seen it, it's interesting because there's such a thing as too much pain in advertising, if you will, because that's what the sales team needs to be able to do is go ask questions. I've seen just recently, it was an advertising campaign for a very close long-term client. And this was, we were brainstorming different things and they were going back and forth, and it was around cleaning ice machines. There a lot of work around ice machines. And there was a lot of things inside of there that were inside of this advertising campaign going out to different areas, that there's all these diseases and all these different things that can happen if you don't clean your ice. And it was so almost too far on the pain side that it was like, oh my gosh, it was scary. But you have to know how far you can go. Because you just don't want to clean your ice machine just to have a clean ice machine. You know, you have to have some pain inside of there, right? So it's really important to understand that. Now, one thing I want to show up here. Thank you, Pete. Is briefly. I've said this many times. Pretty much anything cool comes in a triangle. I'm not sure why. I'm really not sure why. Okay. I'm running best quality over here. Just say best service over here. And then I'm going to put something up here that could be a little challenging. Lowest price. Now, at the end of the day, you know, people don't buy, ideally they're going to buy based on value, but when push comes to shove, let's face it, there's some companies out there and some people out there, you can almost change their mission statement to say, we are in business to save money. But that's not why they're in business. People start businesses to do what? To generate revenue, to exceed targets, to help their customers, obviously. They're not in business to save money. No business goes into business to save money. Fair statement? Okay. But sometimes that's what it feels like in an organization. They walk out of meetings and it's like, oh, we can't, right? And that happens. So I want you to think about this for a second. Best quality, best service, or lowest price. Fundamentally, there's a lot of customers or prospects out there, no matter what your industry is, that want what? They want the best quality from you, don't they? They want the best service from you, right? And what else do they want? The lowest price. Now,
you only get 2 of those 3.
There it is. There it is. So the thing is, to your point, but a lot of people want this. So if you were to sit with, and see if the marketing team, the sales team could talk about this a little bit and be on the same page, let's take it to the customer level for a second. Imagine you ask a customer, say, I'm interested in a prospect, typically these 3 things come into play, but let's face it, it can be very difficult, if not impossible, to have all 3 without some concession in some of these areas. If you had to pick 2, which one would you pick? And by the way, it's quite an interesting conversation when you're with a prospect, because you can really start to dive in. Then you start to dive into what's really important. But too often, the sales team, without being connected to the marketing team, maybe the marketing team is really focused, okay, we're going to focus on quality. We heard somewhere that quality, we have a statistic that quality is really important, so we're going to really market around quality. We have the best quality, but the sales team's kind of like, you know, they're still going off of whatever. Best, you know, see where I'm going? So not only is this important to talk to a customer, a potential customer about, but internally between marketing and sales to say, where are we? The other interesting thing is, just from a sales perspective, when you're sitting with a prospect, you're asking them this question. one of the best things you can do is look at them and compare their answer to you to their business. Think about it for a second. Say, I know you want the best quality, best service, and lowest price, and I want to be able to talk to you about this and break this down. Let me ask you about your business. In your business, what does that look like? And not too often, you're going to find that they're not going to say we do all three, because it's very, very challenging to do that. Something will have to give. Something will have to give. And there's more chances to connect with that prospect.
Is it okay if someone like Scott Sheldon, who has a high quality residential and commercial painting, right, when he's sitting down with someone, would it be, sorry to pick on you, instead of talking to me? Yeah. When he's talking to me, he goes, look, you can draw out the triangle and said, if you're looking for the lowest price, you're gonna be able to find somebody that can beat our price. But we back everything we do, we have thousands of testimonials, best quality, you're gonna be so thrilled when we're done your project, but if you're really looking for saving money, we're probably not your agent.
There could be a definite way of saying that. You have to be careful on promising so much without understanding what's important to them, obviously, but at a high level, it's a conversation that you can dive deep into to find out what's important to that prospect. That's all that matters. That's all that matters.
Well, one of the things I'll use, Chris, is, let me ask you a question if I may. Why do you believe our customers typically pay 10 to 15% more for our services?
Because of the way you handle customer service with your product.
And then sometimes, depending on the rapport of what I've established, I'll ask, is money going to be the only deciding factor, or I forget how I frame or say, put it, but I'll get those questions, I'll get that out of the way pretty early on, just so I know where I stand and what I may have to come back to.
Absolutely. And I want to add one more thing to what you just said.
Absolutely.
That information that you have with that customer, imagine just sharing that, just different debriefing sales calls with the marketing team on a weekly basis, and everyone can throw things back and forth. What are you hearing? What are you experiencing?
I'd say the biggest drive in our business is service is always the primary thing, because generally they want it yesterday. So they want you on site right away, and they need it that night, or they gotta get it to their stakeholders right away. Quality to us is a value added item, because we know we're gonna do a good job. They'll come back, but what they're gonna remember is the service. They never ask price up front. I mean, it's a nice place to be, that I don't have to deal with that a lot of times, but service. We need it now, we need it yesterday, we can do it, right there, we got the job.
Absolutely, absolutely.
What's interesting about what I do is that I don't often have to convince people to buy my products. I have to convince them to buy it from me. They're mandated by law often to have certain of my products. So, the triangle is an interesting concept, because who wants to pay more money for their car insurance or home insurance, and they really have to, but if you're not adequately covered, you haven't had engagement with your agent who can educate you, and the fact that I'm a lawyer is just a whole other thing, but and perspective is important also. So you've got a triangle. You're not going to be able to do 3 out of 3, so you're going to have to settle for 2 out of 3. It's been a long summer if anybody's a baseball fan. 1 out of 3 in baseball, you go to the Hall of Fame. So 2 out of 3, you're really doing pretty darn good.
Doing pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely.
To your point, Eric, it's one of those things that there has to be value that sales is bringing to the table during a meeting with a prospect. And that value is, it's almost like the prospect is striking a virtual check to you based on the amount of questions you ask, how you make them think about their world in a different way than a preconceived notion they have about salespeople. And that's where this can come into play. And again, sharing this information between marketing and sales so we're on the same page is really, really important. Really important.
I often wonder whether if we went around the room, and I know we don't have time and I don't want to embarrass anybody, if people could actually explain the difference between sales and marketing. I think that's often a huge issue in businesses that I either represent as a lawyer or come in and
let's do it.
Whatever, but just, what's the difference?
I saw Jen's hand.
That's what your life is, really.
A quick thing I say is marketing is awareness and leads and sales is deals. I don't know how accurate that is, but that's.
Keep going around. That's very good.
Sales is transactional, whereas marketing is more conversational.
That's what I looked at it.
Impressions versus contracts.
Okay, keep going. Keep going.
Sales is a revenue generator, marketing is a cost center.
Spoken like a leader.
You can Google this topic and come up with every answer in here. There's a lot of different answers around this. But when you think about the difference between both of them, one of them should be around bringing awareness, obviously, bringing things out there, letting people see what you're all about. But I think the disconnect, and why we're doing this versus thing here, is what the sales is all about. I don't really feel that sales is all about the transaction as much as I do is understanding why that customer, potential customer, should make a decision to buy with us. And that glue, that connection between the two. Now there's a commodity sale, there's a point and click, I can buy something easy, there's a longer process, B2B sale, and it's just understanding the difference. Keith, what are your thoughts on that?
Marketing is getting someone's attention, getting someone to want to start a conversation, and then I put down always be, not closing, always be qualifying, and then just figure out, okay, what was it that is about our brand? What was it about that campaign? What was it about the photos of our center on the website that piqued your curiosity? So being that professional 3-year-old, being curious. Absolutely.
And let's take it to the next one extra level here. How about these two words, emotional intelligence? It's kind of two words you hear quite often today, right? Emotional intelligence. Another one is artificial intelligence. And over the next 10 years, we're going to see a lot more artificial intelligence out there. I'm not saying that Skynet's coming anytime soon, but you just don't know. And where I'm going with that is that ability for that emotional intelligence for a salesperson to be able to connect and qualify, always be qualifying, and not filling up their pipeline with a lot of wishing and hoping and hopium, and then defending themselves why it doesn't close. To Keith's point, that's where the challenge is. Marketing can bring in, sales has to qualify. So important. Glad you brought that up. Now, the last, number 4, 1 day a quarter at a minimum, whatever it is for your world, shadowing. This is something that I've seen firsthand that makes a huge, huge difference. And what that can mean is many different things. It could mean someone on the sales team, someone on the marketing team actually goes on a ride along with the salesperson in their business. They go out. They're going out on a customer or prospect appointment, and the marketing person gets introduced, part of the company, and they can sit there and understand each other, walk a mile of my moccasins, if you will. And then the salesperson can come in and meet and shadow with the marketing team for 1 day. Sitting next to them, understanding what's going on, going to the meetings. What kind of value does that give each of them?
It's huge because it exposes the other to what their counterpart needs to go through. And it adds consideration into what they have to appreciate about the product and the entire cycle of from start to end.
Absolutely. And again, to your point, it's understanding. And that shadowing has to be a commitment. It has to be looking at the calendar, planning ahead, treating it as if this is a meeting that you're not going to cancel. In other words, you can't look at it and say, geez, next week I'm shadowing with marketing. Can I figure out something else to do during that day? I'll make an excuse, or whatever. I can't go. It has to be a commitment to do that. So really, really important. So finding out a way to do that at least once a quarter. Last one can be actually challenging at times because it's figuring out a way to celebrate success. But think how does this one directly apply to number 1? Number 1 is we're sharing goals with each other. So how should this one apply to number 1?
When you've accomplished those shared goals.
When you've accomplished goals. When you understand that. And it's not to say that you can't celebrate, but celebrating every other day with a massive happy hour just because we showed up to work probably may not be the best thing to do. I don't know, I don't want to judge. Maybe want to add a little bit more to it. But the thing is that what we have to do is understand that let's set some milestones out there. And maybe it means we go out and we do something different. We go off-site. What did we just go to? The escape room.
Yes.
Yeah, that was fun. So, thank you. It was so memorable, I forgot what it was. The escape room. It was fun. It was challenging. But just think about what you want to do with your team to celebrate success and what that looks like, and make an announcement around it. And I will say that when you, and I want to go back to the shadowing aspect just for a moment. That helped understand. I was with a client a couple of months ago. We went out on sales calls with the salesperson, regional salesperson, and the marketing director with this company, and myself. And there was a lot of questions going back and forth, and it was after we debriefed every sales call, and at the end of the day, we debriefed over dinner. And it was just one of those things where I can sit back and I can picture both of them having conversations about what the day was all about. You know what I heard a lot of? I heard, I didn't realize that, and fill in the blank. I didn't realize this, I didn't realize that, and it was huge. So this was all about breaking down some of those silos and some strategies around how to get there. We're very happy to share these slides, and also, if you would like, there's an article, just an article that was written about these 5 that I put together not too long ago. Happy to send that out to everybody. Do you want to gather business cards?
Sure, just before you leave, just give me your business card, and then I will put that in my pocket, and then we'll have Ellen go ahead and send it out there tomorrow morning.
Awesome.